It's no secret that I have a deep appreciation for music. I have expressed it on this channel in quite a few ways, from using countless songs from my favorite artists in my videos, to even rebranding my entire channel with a video about my favorite albums. It wasn't always this way, of course. I remember discovering future funk and finally feeling like I had found a type of music that fit me. Sure, I liked other types of music, but future funk was the first genre of music that I wasn't just listening to as background noise. I found myself listening to it even when I didn't have to get something done. And this is when I started treating music as a hobby rather than a tool to get things done. I really love future funk. It was the first genre that felt like it completely appealed to me. I absolutely loved almost every song on the surface of the future funk rabbit hole that Spotify took me down. The high energy, fast-paced city pop remixes from artists like Macross 8299 and Young Bae were what really made me fall in love with the genre. But along my adventures into future funk, there was one artist who stood out, an artist who kept getting lumped in with the other artists in this genre, but who was in an entirely different playing field altogether. Yuni Wa is by far the most unique future funk artist I've listened to, but to call him a future funk artist is somewhat dishonest. Where other artists go right, Yuni Wa goes left. He's been able to have the ability to free himself from any specific genre, being a self-proclaimed multi-genre artist. An assessment which I think fits. Other artists use samples from Japanese city pop from when it was in its prime, but Yuni Wa samples anything, ranging from Brazilian pop and songs like Feel Free and All About You to American songs, sometimes using multiple samples in one song. More times than not, however, Yuni Wa samples nothing at all. This is why I said it would be dishonest to say he's a future funk artist. He's not. He's purely an artist, and to define him with any one label wouldn't fully encompass his musical abilities. Yuni Wa makes future funk, but he also makes dark bass, a very, very distant cousin of future funk, and he's even dipped his toes into the vaporwave scene. The reason why he's able to do this is because each and every one of his songs have a similar tone and theme to them. They all instill the same feeling into the listener. You could listen to any one of the dozens of Yuni Wa albums and come out feeling the same way purely because of the theming and the atmosphere the music provides. Other music in future funk leaves you nostalgic for a time before you were born. It douses you in the culture of the Japanese city pop scene of the late 20th century, but Yuni Wa's music makes you nostalgic for a time period that doesn't even exist. All of Yuni Wa's music is very different. His albums are all extremely varied. They'll jump from vaporwave to dark bass to future funk to songs that are completely uncategorizable, all in the same album. And this holds true especially in his earlier projects. But it all has the same meaning and feeling behind it, which only changes from album to album. His songs are very galactic in nature, and that's the only way I can really describe them because of the energy they exude is impossible to properly explain. His songs are sometimes slow, but are energetic with the instruments and sounds they use. They're all so different, yet they all share this energy. Maybe it's to do with the way the samples are chopped up, or the instruments used, or the effects that he uses that can make the music feel so far away, almost like an orchestra from another planet. And even when he samples other songs that future funk artists frequently use, he puts a spin on it that makes it sound unique. This versatility is Yuni Wa's greatest strength, and also his greatest weakness. It's what makes him stand out from other artists, but also what pushes potential fans away. When I first got into the future funk scene, I didn't really know much about anything. When I skimmed popular albums, I found some songs that I liked and a lot that I didn't. Yuni Wa was one of the artists I found early into my ventures into future funk. I remember being recommended Can't Tell and feeling like it was one of the most unique songs I had heard thus far. The sampling gave the song a feeling similar to other future funk songs, but the layered instrumentals and the way the sample was cut up and repurposed reminded me a little of how Daft Punk had used samples in Discovery. I really liked Can't Tell. It went on my playlist as soon as I heard it, and I listened to it over and over and over until I was sick of it. So naturally, I went searching for similar music by Yuni Wa. I went to the album Can't Tell was from, called Ethereal Lover, and listened to the first few songs, but I quickly stopped because I didn't really understand what I was listening to. I was on a mission for future funk, and Ethereal Lover is not a future funk album. It's an undefinable piece of art. Sure, some of the songs could be categorized as future funk, but to a newcomer like me, it was confusing hearing so many different conflicting styles of music in a time where I was still discovering what my music taste was like. The thing is, after I discovered what I liked and I went back to artists that I glossed over, including Yuni Wa, I figured out that while I was experimenting with different music, listening to different genres and trying different sounds, Yuni Wa was doing the same thing that I was. Yuni Wa's music is emotional. It's borderline impressive how much emotion he's managed to implement into completely instrumental songs. Each one of his albums usually vividly represents feelings and experiences. There's reflective albums like University, moodier albums like the Ethereal Lover and Chill Days albums, and projects like Manifesto, which channel pure energy and unadulterated unrest. And that's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Yuni Wa's vast discography. As of right now, he's got 30 albums on Spotify, with a 31st coming this November, each one of them embodying a different emotion or feeling. There's some albums in his discography which are easily within my top 10, but when I venture into future funk spaces and communities online, I rarely see Yuni Wa mentioned. And I think part of the reason for this is the deep variation Yuni Wa demonstrates in his albums. It can be hard for people used to one style of music to listen to Yuni Wa's music and hear something unfamiliar. His spacey, almost universal theming that I notice is very different from the city pop-esque theming from other music in future funk, but that's the reason why I love his music so much. Because every time I listen to one of his albums for the first time, I don't know what to expect. I could find some of the most hidden gems in the landscape of future funk, or I could find something equally well produced that's just not my type of music. His prowess in the creation of music is apparent, regardless of if you're a fan of the music he creates or not. And that's why I was shocked when I listened to Data Forever 1 for the first time and found some incredible gems, which went on to become some of my favorite songs, not just in future funk, but in music in general. The thing that separates Yuni Wa from other artists in my view is how he's just stuck to whatever he's liked making. He hasn't let public opinion or reception or anything lead him astray from the music that he wants to create. When I listen to a song by Yuni Wa, more than anything else, I can hear the pure dedication and passion that's gone into each track, and the amount of passion Yuni Wa has for making music. No matter what he makes, whether it be dark bass, vaporwave, or feature funk, he's been incredibly successful in expressing that emotion with his music, something which I've rarely found in the music I like. Yuni Wa's music isn't for everyone, and the thing is, it doesn't have to be. When I was starting out, there was a lot of music by Yuni Wa that I wrote off simply because I wasn't used to it. His style of music was something that I hadn't heard back then, and I still haven't heard anything like to this day. And because of its uniqueness, it has become some of my favorite music out there. Yuni Wa's music has consistently been some of the most underrated music I've had the pleasure of listening to. And I hope that changes. I hope more people become fans of the strange, ever-changing, beautiful universe of the music of Yuni Wa.